Hello, and welcome back to another World Explorers podcast where we take a topic and then build a world around it. Pretty basic concept, but usually relatively complex world. So, as always, I'm Casey, and I'm joined by Isaac, who is the prompt master. This is the point where you say hello.
Fog.
Fog.
Fog. That's our theme this time around, is fog.
What about fog, or is it just fog?
Well, I got one other thing with fogs. I have mountains.
So mountains and fogs.
So, what I was thinking, this time around, is we would create a world where it's, all mountains, and the mountains are divided and separated from each other by an extremely heavy and thick fog that is low to the ground.
So we thinking
like if you go to like a mountain
fog where it pushes you back, or any other movie fog where you just can't see?
It's just a fog where you can't see.
Okay.
And the mountains are all separated by this fog where you can't see. And the fog is dangerous, lad. It's dark and spooky and dangerous.
Well, it's not. And, I don't know. Most fog's not dark. It's just.
It's dark because there's no sunlight getting through.
Well, it's a different type of dark. It's like the sense that you just can't see, but it's usually white and really bright. It's just fog, and you can't see anything. You can't see your hand in front of you.
Ah.
Just. Unless it's dark out, then I guess it is dark and foggy.
Well, you could see like maybe somewhat in front of you, enough to see where you're going, but you can't see very far.
Okay, so we can see like our hand.
Yeah, we can see our hands. We can see like maybe a.
Can we see our foot?
Yeah, like I was thinking maybe we could see like a 10-foot radius around us.
Nah, that's
maybe,
not true.
Maybe 20.
Fog. That's not real fog.
Oh.
That's not the scary fog. That's normal.
Okay, fine. We can see 4 feet in front of us.
Okay, I guess I can go with 4. I don't know. I like the idea of blinding fog.
Anyway, so it's a dangerous forest where dangerous creatures roam about and kill people dangerously, and these mountains would have different people living on them, and they don't interact all that much because they can't.
So, question, what's preventing people from building very long bridges?
Well, you gotta go into the fog if you want to build support underneath the bridges.
No, you just make those really precarious rope bridges that you kind of just fling across the other side, and then you pray every time you cross it.
You gotta have some arm to throw it from one mountain peak to another.
How do they do that? Like, I mean, you could maybe harpoon, like with a lot of air pressure, and you just pew it across to the other side.
I mean, if we're saying that they have the level of technology, like with pneumatics,
that would just be a rope, mind you. That'd be one rope, and then a second rope would go across, and then you would layer afterwards. I'm not saying they're the entire bridge.
I was thinking if they have the technology for pneumatics, they probably have the technology for something like a helicopter.
I mean, the catapult came before the helicopter.
Yeah, but I'm not so sure a catapult can launch from one mountain peak to another.
Didn't the harpoon come before the catapult?
Maybe a trebuchet. What?
Doesn't the harpoon come before the helicopter?
Yeah, but not with pneumatics.
I don't know. That's just an
like
idea. But like, how would they be getting the stuff for a helicopter?
I mean, they wouldn't. I'm just saying, the idea is that they don't have that high. I was thinking that they don't have really any technology at all. They have like their most advanced weapon may be a spear.
Oh, okay. So the mountains aren't very good with resources?
I mean, like at the mountain peaks, you could totally have like resources. Like maybe some people have started like farming up there, and you could get some ores on the mountain and various things. But if you go down the mountain and into the fog, You
So the
can't
fog is
travel.
like inside the mountain?
No, I mean like you climb down the mountain. The fog
I mean,
is
you could go through
Here's the
the
thing. The fog is
mountain.
everywhere in the world. I'm saying the fog is everywhere in the world that is down low. Um, but if you're on the mountains, you can climb high enough that you are out of the fog.
So, okay, so question. So, let's dig a tunnel. And the tunnel goes down through the mountain, right? Does the fog
Okay.
find its way in that tunnel even though technically that tunnel is not connected to the outside? Except through the top part where there's no fog.
No, the fog would not find its way through there.
Okay, so we just make advanced tunnel systems from mountain to mountain. It'll take a long
Okay,
time,
but
but
you
they can
gotta
do
be
it.
you'll be like that'll take a very long time with the technology they have, and you would have to spend a lot of you'd have to be very careful with how far you dig and make sure you're going in the right direction. Because if you poke a hole out the top of um, the ground where the fog is, rather than poke a hole out the top of the other mountain, you've just ruined all of that progress.
You're saying the fog will just come in and fill it up?
Yeah, like it's a very heavy, dense fog that'll just sort of like flow into the tunnel that you
So,
just
so
dug
what's
and fill it
keeping the
up.
fog down? Like, what's keeping the fog from just shooing up?
It's very heavy.
Oh, okay. So it would only like affect the lower levels of the tunnel. Then.
Yeah, what I was thinking was the fog was just so dense and heavy that it doesn't actually ascend upward into the sky.
So, I. So how? So why? How is the fog like staying high enough in general? Like, how does it have any height to it if it's just so heavy it doesn't float at all?
I would imagine the same way that clouds can have height instead of clouds all being in the same flat 1 inch height area,
Well, that's just
like
because
being
they're
1 inch tall
attracted
in the
to each
same
other.
level.
It's not density, is it? It's just they're attracted to each other.
I don't know how clouds work. I'm not a meteorologist.
I mean, I'm not either. But when you're building, you have to pretend you are.
Oh.
You gotta sound like you are.
Uh,
Or else people won't buy it.
People won't buy that the fog is just dense and it won't go any higher because it's too dense for that.
So, people walking through this fog. Can they walk through this fog?
Yes, but it's dangerous.
Well, yeah. You're gonna have to elaborate on that soon. But before that, so
Well, that's one of the things that I was thinking that we could build on.
yeah. But walking through the fog, does it put like weight on you? Does it hit you hard? Are you like weighed down by fog? And no,
I
this isn't a
mean, a
metaphor
tiny
for
bit,
life.
and you might notice when you first enter it, but I think it's the sort of thing that you quickly get used to.
So is it feels more like going through actual fog, like our world fog, where you just get wet.
That's sort of what I was thinking. We could make this fog magic fog and say it weighs down on you the longer you're in it, and
Ooh, magic fog solves
the
all
longer
of
you're
our
in the
issues.
fog,
Because you're just
like
like,
once you
it's
say
magic.
it's magic, you can just throw science out the window.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's make this magic fog.
Yeah. And
Let's
okay,
literally
so
put the weight of the world on people.
so it's now magic fog, and the longer you're standing in the fog, the more the fog will weigh down on you, which is really bad for these people who live in the mountains. If they want to travel down into the fog, it starts weighing down on them. Now they have to traverse back up the mountain with this fog weighing down on them, heavier and heavier as they go, just to get back home.
Yeah, and so does eventually it crush them? No? You come
I
down
think
there?
eventually they would probably pass out before they get crushed.
Passing. Okay. I don't know. I
I
don't
mean, I
know how
think it's-
pressure works.
Neither do I. I imagine like what it is. It's putting pressure on their entire body all at once, almost like it's just pulling them to the ground from like
I
like
feel
every part,
like you
every
might
part of the body.
start
Basically,
feeling
it's almost
being
like gravity increased.
Yeah, I think you might feel being crushed before you pass out. Yeah, eventually you'll pass
Yeah, like
out,
you
but you
might
got some
start
pain
feeling
first.
it, but you'd have some pain first, but it's not like somebody's smashing you with a sledgehammer or something and breaking your
No,
bones first. It's more, I think it's more like all of your muscles and organs and everything. They would all be like getting weighed
yeah.
down
I guess
and
I guess it's like
make it hard to breathe.
it's going underwater. When you go underwater and you're increasing your pressure, I think eventually you pass out first before you die. But I'm not sure. Someone would
like
have
that.
to check that.
And also, yeah, and I was thinking it would be like it would start getting harder to breathe. Cause, again, you're also in fog, which the humidity's pretty high in fog, especially in magic fog. So that would just not help your breathing situation.
No, no, it wouldn't. But mind you, these people would have some good lungs. They live on the mountains.
Oh, that's true.
So I don't think the breathing issue would be that big of a deal for. But then again, I guess humidity is very different from what's it called when you're just
thin
high
air.
Up. Yeah. Yeah, that.
Thin air.
Yeah, I guess those are two different types of. Because I know a lot of people who live in like very humid areas, and then they go to the mountains and they can't breathe, and vice versa, because it's I guess different muscles in the lungs. I don't know, but they're different.
I don't know how many times we have to say this. We're not scientists.
Every time, but we're story writers. We're world.
How many
creators.
episodes? How many episodes have we said? Like, how many times have we done this and had to say we're not scientists?
Not as much as I thought we would, to be honest. There's been a few times where we had to say we're not psychologists. A few times where we said we weren't like some other specialized fields, but you know. The only thing I have professional training in is literally writing. So, that's all I've got for you. Anyways, fog creatures.
Okay, so I was trying to think of what we could create as creatures that would live in the fog. Now we could create these creatures based around the fog, or we could create these creatures to be more like real life sort of creatures, similar to how we had before with the world with the no sun, where you had a bunch of blind creature, like everything uses echolocation.
Yeah.
We could have something similar to that idea. So, which route should we go down? Maybe we'll go down both.
Yeah. I mean, my first
Magic
thought was
fog creatures, or
my first thought when you said fog creatures was, you know, in Minecraft the phantoms, but like but like white, and they could see through the fog, and they fly on the fog. Like that's why they don't go above the fog, is because they can use the fog to like fly through. So that's why they stay within the fog and not go to the mountains.
The fog is almost like they swim through the fog like a fish swims through water.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why they're not affected by like the pressure or anything like the humans are. It's definitely.
Yeah,
I feel like this is
this
is an awful lot like deep water. So think this environment's like deep water, except we have air. Is the only difference. It's deep water without the water. Deep ocean, I guess.
Except it's not just that further down you go, the heavier things become. It's the longer you stay down there, the heavier things become.
Yeah, but the creatures work the same way, kind of, and like how they survive, and they can float along the fog and stuff like that. But visibility is, well, in deep ocean, visibility sucks as well because it's dark. So you know, it's very similar to that, except not. But if you want to research how, like, scientifically this could work a bit better and the effects it have, my suggestion would be to do research on deep oceans. And, like, the effect that has on the human body and how animals interact in it. Just if you want to sound smarter in your writing.
If you want to write this book, just look up how deep oceans work and what it's like living under them.
Yeah. What type of creatures you can get.
Although
I don't think this world
I'm sorry
should
for
have
having no energy this episode.
None of us have any energy. I'm melting. I can't.
It is late.
I can't have a fan on, and it's like 80, 90 degrees, and I'm in a house with no air conditioning. I'm melting. So, but that's my excuse. Isaac is it's late, but we're gonna power through this anyways because we're committed to this. What other creatures other than
Yay!
this? Oh, wow, it sounds like I'm torturing you. It's just like we have to make this podcast no matter what. Anyways, so what else have we got? We've got the phantom-like creatures, which I think are fun. Which would be hard.
Well, what do the phantom-like creatures do? Because all we have is one characteristic, which is swim through fog. We need to build on them more. Are
they can see through the fog,
scary?
and I asked,
Are they lethal? Are they?
I think how you know they're there is that like their eyes kind of glow slightly. So you just get those, classic horror movies where it's just the eyes being seeable.
What's color eyes?
I am thinking I want it to be too obvious.
I imagine yellow.
I don't know. I was thinking blue was my thoughts. Just because blue feels
Blue works
more
well with
ghostly.
fog.
Yeah. So that way it's still kind of hard to see. Because these are creatures that come out of nowhere and just... I was about to say rip you to shreds, but I don't think they'd have claws.
I imagine them looking like stingrays.
Yeah.
And they're sort of flat, but when they open up their mouths, they're like it's not that they have a top jaw and a bottom jaw with teeth. It's they have one round circular jaw, and maybe when they run towards you, they start doing this like barrel roll, and their teeth start so that they start spinning towards you, so that their teeth can shred through you.
That sounds bloody and gruesome, like really bloody and gruesome. Just one quick.
I'm just trying to come up with something unique.
Yeah, just one quick detail about the fog that we need to establish real quick. So, is this pressure mental, or is it actually like physically happening? Like, when people die, are their bodies just literally crushed into nothingness, or is it just all in their head and they just die?
I think it would be more interesting if it was like all in their head.
Yeah, I think so. Plus, that gives the creatures we can do more with creatures and stuff. Because they're just not affected by the fog.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And
if you can come up with some sort of thing to block out the fog, it wouldn't affect your mind.
And those
underwater
things that suck out the
oxygen tanks.
Mask.
Put on a helmet.
Just put on a mask to filter it through.
I don't think a simple mask would be enough. You need like a gas mask.
Yeah, or those really creepy ones.
Well, it could still get into your ears. I think it's like you would need a full-on, like, astronaut suit for this.
Can it get through your skin too? Is that what we're saying? It's just absorbed in general through every opening.
That's what I was thinking. Like, if there's an opening, it's gonna find its way in. Like, if your ears are not covered, it can seep in through your ears.
That makes me think that it could almost seep through, like, rock and stuff, so tunneling almost wouldn't work, because you create a tunnel and you hit that lower level, and then it just starts seeping into the tunnel. That just seems creepy to me, but
I'm not sure if, I don't think that it could get through, rock and dirt and stuff quite as easily as it could a human's body.
Yeah, true. I don't know. It's an idea that could be played with. Can we have messenger hawks, and that's how you know there's other people? Like other people in other mountains?
I mean, I think you could probably spot the other towns, but yeah, you could totally train messenger hawks, and then that could be a form of communication. It could also be a form of trade, like for small objects.
Yeah. Nothing major, though. I mean, it depends. We could give them giant birds. But then again, they'd have no reason to go to the fog.
Another creature that we could create.
Yeah, but then they have no reason to go to the fog. Do we want to give them a reason to go to the fog? I mean, if you want a story, you gotta give them a reason to go through the fog. Because giant birds they could train to fly and stuff just means people are flying from one mountain to the other. Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, that could be a normal
I think that we
thing.
might want to stick with hawks.
Well, I mean, we could still have that, and then, like, the reason that someone's in the fog is because they, like, fell off or they had an accident or something, instead of they needed it to get to the other side.
What if there's a legend? Like, some ancient, legendary thing that is located inside of the fog that would send someone after it. And we're heading more towards storytelling realm than world building realm at this point. But
yeah, they're one and the same.
You know what? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Worlds are built on stories, so I mean, it'd be cool if the item was actually something that could remove the fog or control it. So a villain-like character would want it so they could bring the fog up and like use it to kill people, and then a hero-like character would want it so they could remove the fog from the lower levels and start having the people expand. You know, because overpopulation, especially when you're limited to mountaintops, would probably be a thing.
More farmland.
Yeah. Plus, who knows what plants and animals could be like used and tamed if the fog wasn't there. Mind you, the poor stingray fog creatures would then go extinct because they live on the fog. But you know.
Oh yeah, they'd immediately die. But nobody likes them when they're like they've got these like spinning teeth blade thingies coming at you. Oh, come on.
There's always those animal activists who are like, oh, no, we can't do that. I'm sure they would have, like, a fog zone where they just limit the fog and those creatures would just... They can stay there. You know? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what extent this thing would have.
Okay. So, what does the thing that controls the fog look like? Like, is it a sword? Is it a staff? Is it a music box?
We could always go with our favorite item, the stone.
Just another stone. We always go with stones and crystals, though.
That was my joke.
Let's go with something else.
That was a joke. It was a joke. I said, let's go with our favorite item, the stone. No, it was a joke.
Okay, so what kind of thing would
I don't know, what control
fog? Well, there is this thing called a weather rock.
Well, we said no stones.
No. I know, but that's just what came to my mind. I was like, okay, what
my second thought was like a crystal ball, because they have like foggy things, but then I'm like, wait, that's a crystal. We can't do crystal.
And we've already done crystal balls in the past.
Yeah.
But like, I was sitting there thinking, okay, what is associated with weather that is low technology? And like, oh my gosh, it's a rock.
It is a rock. Have you ever seen, like, off topic, but have you ever seen those signs where they just put a rock on a string and they say, this is how I tell my weather? It's like, if it's wet, it's raining. If it's dry, it's sunny. If it's, and then it has this, and always the last one is, if the rock is gone, it's a tornado, and you should run. You should hide.
Yes, that is a weather rock. That is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That is a weather rock.
Yep. Should we just make it a rock?
That's a low technology.
We should just accept that it should be a rock. And just accept it. But we can make it like a cool see-through rock which has like fog inside it. So it's not a normal rock.
Maybe it's like a rock that can contain fog. But
and then also disperse it.
But it can only contain.
Maybe and also disperse it. Like if it's a holder, you can open and close. I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At which point, maybe it shouldn't be a rock. We could go with a clam.
Ooh, clams, fancy.
A clam with maybe a pearl inside, and then that pearl
contains the fog.
Like. Yes,
I mean, that goes with the sea creature theme we've been going with.
Yep, and like maybe it would be like in a pond or something that's in the center of the fog, and you would have to journey to the center of the fog, and then go under the water and find it, and then you could control the fog.
So, what would happen though if you took like a clam out of the water? Because clams die out of water.
It's a purple magic clam.
Yeah.
I imagine it's like a pinkish purple color.
Why pinkish purple? Also, if my audio's changing, it's because I got a hamster and yeah. Just letting people know. Anyways, because magic.
Because it's a magic clam, and other than that, I don't know. I just for some reason imagined it as a pink and purple clam.
Okay.
Maybe I play too much Mario. I don't know.
I mean, probably. But, okay. We have a pinkish purples clam, and that's the quest item. Let's go back to animals in the fog realm, because so far all we have is the scary blade stingray things.
Well, now we've got this water pool thingy
Sure.
that I would assume there would be some sort of dangerous creature guarding, some sort of water-based dangerous creature that would be guarding the clam. What would that be?
I mean, my thought was giant squid, but maybe that's a little too cliche, and I think this pool should be smaller than that.
Especially for a pond.
Yeah, especially for a pond.
I was thinking, the first thing that came to my mind was electric eels.
Oh, that's fun. But you know how the goblet of eternal life, or whatever it's called, from King Arthur, you know how there's like 80 of them? And there's not. There's a bunch of them. No, so in the legend, you come into a room and there's a bunch of them, and only the one who's like worthy and true can drink from the right goblet. And if you do, you get eternal life. All the others are poisonous and kill you. We could do that, but with clams. And if you open the clams, some of them like spit poison at you or something. And there's just a bunch of the same looking clams, and then it's just the chosen one can pick the right one.
What if the chosen one gets the clam that can absorb and disperse fog, but anybody else will get the clam that absorbs humans?
That is dark and morbid, and I like it. Yeah.
And like it would just like imprison these people in the clam until the chosen one comes along and frees them.
Well, does the chosen one want to free them? Because that could be book number 2. Because not all the people going after this clam are going to be nice people. And all these people were like, oh, yay, all these people are gone because they went after the clam and they're idiots. Now all of a sudden they're free, and now it's like, the fog may be gone, but no problem.
Okay, maybe they're just absorbed and die.
I mean, but I like books too. But, you know, multiple books is always a good thing. Don't eat my...
Not always a good thing, but sometimes.
It can be.
It can be.
Look,
yes.
There's a book 2 possibility here, depending on where you want to go here. We got a multi-book series here. Or a 1-book series, depending on what you want to do. There's options. Options are always good.
Some things are better left without sequels.
And some things are better with sequels, you know?
Yeah, some things are, indeed.
So, it depends.
A lot of the Disney classic sequels I could use as examples of you should have left well enough alone.
Look, and there's a few which I could say, you know what? The sequel's just as good.
Absolutely.
Mind you, those are fewer than the ones that were trash, but you know, there are a few. Where were we? Creatures? So we have the clams, and there could be electric eels, and they're just for spice.
Do the electric eels have fangs, and then they bite down on you and electrocute you so long as the fangs are embedded in your skin?
I mean, that's more fun than just the entire water is electrocuted and the chosen one's just sitting there like, nope, not putting my hand in that. Nope. Okay, so we have that. So speaking of this, a chosen one, how are they surviving the fog? So it's a mental state, kind of, right? So is there a way to mentally get through it? And that's... How is this fog weighing people down? You know, there's like a physical aspect, but is it like with words, with sayings? Is it just insulting you the whole time, making you depressed, giving you pounding headaches because you want to cry and curl up in the corner and die, and then some people actually do? Like, what are we doing with this fog?
Well, I'm thinking, for one, it makes it harder to breathe, that we established, and then... Also,
so is hallucination on the table?
I'm down with hallucinations.
Hallucinations.
You see strange stuff in the fog.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have hallucinations, struggle of breathing, the pressures of the chosen one, flying razor things after you. You finally get there, and then you have to pick the right clam, and there's these eels there that would love to just bite you and fry you and then eat you. What's next?
how about people who have managed to find a way to live in the fog?
People who can. So how would those would they be like insane people? Just mentally broken to the point where they didn't die from it, but like they don't really
I mean,
function.
we could totally have that, but I was also thinking about people who have managed to just mentally overcome the fog.
Okay. So what does
Like it like mind over matter almost, but not quite. It's more like mind over mind.
Yeah, mind over fog.
Like they mind over fog. Yeah, like they are able to keep. They're basically clearing their head of brain fog. they're they're making sure that their mind is always focused and clear, and
So opposite
and
of insanity and just giving in.
yeah, perhaps they've learned to like block out hallucinations or ignore them to the point where they don't affect them.
Yeah.
Uh, or maybe there's some kind of plant that grows in the fog that if you were to eat it or turn it into a tonic or something, you could use that as sort of a I'm gonna say antidepressant for fog.
I mean, and that could be an interesting thing, like a character is brought down by this and then rescued by the fog people.
Yeah, and maybe these fog people, they have that antidepressant fog herb, and they give it to this person, but they don't usually use it themselves because they've spent so long there, they've learned to overcome the fog without using it.
But it helps.
But they know that for people who don't usually spend their time in the fog, this is a good way to sort of get them out of that bad mental state, and then while they have their mind clear, they can teach the main character to live in the fog.
So, I'd imagine that would eventually lead to children being born in the fog. So, what effect would, like, physically, mentally, and all that stuff, would that have effect on, like, children who know nothing but the fog? Like, can they live outside the fog, or do they eventually become, like, our stingray creatures in the sense that without fog they did? Like, almost like the fog becomes their oxygen, their air. They need it to breathe.
Yeah, what if when you die in the fog, you become a stingray creature?
Oh, that sounds cool. And slightly creepy, but I kind of like it. I mean, that's interesting for the people living in the fog. Do they then send all their elderly people up to the mountains and be like, go die up there? Not here. Like, all their elderly and sick, they're just like, nope, not staying down here. You go out there. We don't need any more of these creatures. Or is it only...
This is reminding me of Grandma's Elevator.
We don't... Yeah, well, this is slightly different in the sense that we're exiling Grandma instead of saying, I'm sorry, Grandma, we don't want to live in your memories. It's different... It hurts. They both hurt, but in two different ways.
Yeah. One is... They're both, like, sort of being rejected, though.
Yeah, but, like, one, it's just like, Grandma, I don't want to die. The other one's like... Grandma, we know you're about to die, and you can't die near us, with us. And is it...
live on the mountaintops.
Well, but the thing... So, actually, does this create a thing where we're going to go completely different from what you were thinking, where the youth live in the fog, and the elderly live in the mountaintops? Or, like, the sick, the blind, like, those who look like they died quickly, are exiled, and they live in the mountains, meanwhile, the young and healthy live in the fog.
I mean, maybe, what if what it was not many people lived in the fog, to begin with? I mean, I would rather live on a mountain where I can see everything, have a beautiful view, and rather than in a place where I can't see what's right in front of my face half the time.
Yeah, that's fair. Also, I guess they would die a lot. Okay, how about, so stingray people, how about you only become a stingray if you had succumbed to the fog or have been killed by the stingrays things. Otherwise,
I like that idea, but I also did come up with...
Okay, yeah.
I also came up with a story idea where if the elderly were exiled to the mountains, maybe there's like one or two mountains where they usually go up and they climb and they hang out and they die, and those people are aware of them. But what if somebody went to a different mountain to die and live the rest of their life? This is somebody who comes out of the fog to a village that doesn't ever get visitors,
Okay.
and isn't even aware that people are living in the fog. And so when this person shows up out of nowhere, it's like, "Hi guys," they're like, "Where did you come from? The fog. How did you survive the fog?" And then this person starts telling stories about the fog and what life is like there, and then maybe gives the story of the clan and the chosen one and all of this, and that prompts the main character to go down and be like, "I'm going to go on an adventure now."
So, okay.
Because
So
now that I know that it's possible to live in the fog, and I've heard these stories, I want to experience it myself.
Okay, we need some pros to living in the fog. At least, like, one or two. Because right now, there are none. Like, there's no reason.
Well, there's more open area. I imagine it's
Does the food tastier?
good for. I imagine like the food it's like there's more farmland area, more access to wood. Although it would probably be kind of hard to get a fire going in the fog.
It's just a sketch.
But you could still build buildings and stuff. I imagine hunting is more common.
Okay, what are they hunting?
You get meat.
Let's go back to animals, like I keep trying to, and then we get distracted with other things, like we do. But what are we hunting? What's for dinner?
The elderly. Or the former elderly. Hunt the stingray.
Well, I'm hoping to create new animals. All we've got are the stingrays.
Okay, so maybe something a little bit more
meaty?
Peaceful. Maybe something more like a deer.
A bit meaty, but still like fits with the fog theme. Maybe something that's still like produced by the fog, kind of like the things are those who died. What would these creatures that they hunt to eat be like representing in the fog?
Okay, so I came up with I just came up with a fog-based creature where imagine it's sort of like a glowing yellow pixie or whatever, but it transforms as it's like flying around through the fog. It will eventually like transform into a maybe a more deer-like creature by just sort of absorbing the fog around it, pulling it all together to form a solid, actual
so like our puffs.
meat creature, kind of like the puffs, but not quite.
How does it turn meat? How does fog turn to meat?
Magic.
Fair. I knew you were gonna say
my idea was that these things would usually be flying around in like their glowing pixie-like form or whatever. They wouldn't actually look like pixies, just like a glowing ball of light or something. And then when they pull the fog together and they form an actual physical creature, that's when like maybe they'll start grazing on grass or something, and they can be killed. Otherwise,
so the light bulbs are babies.
As they're what?
They're the babies. Like the little light forms are their babies, and then as they eat plants and stuff, they grow up to be huntable.
So as they grow up, they go from being light forms to more deer-like.
Yeah,
creatures?
they just grow up. They're like the larvae.
Maybe, but
also you know how
they don't seem like the same animal at that point.
Well, does a tadpole seem like a frog?
That's true.
Plus, you
fair.
know how like a lot of babies have they tend to look like dangerous creatures to like protect themselves. These little babies should be like light blue, like the Phantom's eyes. So you don't hunt
so
the
it's like
baby.
when you see one, you stay away because you're not sure if it's a phantom or if it's
and that way the
fog creature. We need to come up with names for these things.
We are
so the
terrible at names.
Okay, so we at least need to come up with some sort of a name so that we don't call them deer creature and Minecraft phantom.
Fair.
Stingray thing. We need to. Okay, so the flying stingray phantom thing
should just be a fog ray.
Rays.
They're fog rays.
How creative!
I don't do names ever. Look, we do the basic names, and one of these days we'll get listeners who will give us suggestions. Hint, hint on better names. And then the deer larva. I mean, we could call them frog deers just to represent like what they do, how they start as tadpole-like creatures, just for our sake. So we know for a fact that they're fog deer. When we say fog deer, we'll know exactly what we mean. If we were to say that was the name, no one would be able to guess that what we're actually talking about is a little light creature that then transforms into deer by eating grass and things. But, you know. But I do feel like they're kind of like frog deer.
Fog gliders?
I mean, they're not gliding.
Swimming. I almost said like fog striders or fog walkers.
Yeah.
But they don't walk or stride.
I mean,
swimming.
The babies float through the air like this, like our, I already forgot what they're called. Fog rays.
I mean, I was talking about like this. Yeah, I was like the fog rays. I was thinking would be called like fog gliders, but they're not gliding.
Can we just stick with fog rays? We spend too long on names, and they always end up trash anyways. So you
fog
know,
rays.
Yeah.
And
so
then the deer-like creatures.
I was calling them frog deers to represent the fact that they start out as tadpoles that float around in like tadpoles do, where they start out in water. These creatures start out in the fog, like floating around, kind of like the fog rays do, and then as they grow up,
false rays.
They become what?
False rays.
False.
Because they look like fog rays, but they're not.
Only the babies
false
do.
rays.
Okay, you know what, we can go.
The babies do. I don't know.
Would they lose their glow? Like, would their eyes also be the same as the fog rays, or would that be too difficult? Also, wouldn't confusion come if you called them fog rays and false rays? Glow. Okay, yeah. So that way they're easier to hunt, I guess.
I was thinking that. Okay, how about mist something?
Misty deers? No.
Misty deers, maybe.
Can we just go with it?
Walkers?
Sure. Anything to move on.
Mist walkers.
Okay, we've got our fog rays and mist walkers.
And then the eels, we'll just call them...
They're just eels. There's nothing really special about them.
But with fangs.
Yeah. And then the clams, just the clams that suck human souls, but they don't need a special name. And then we have our messenger birds. So far, that's what we got living here.
Yeah. Okay, what else can we do?
I don't know. You tell me.
Why don't we build the villages a little bit? We haven't focused on them at all.
Okay, so let's start with the mountaintop villages, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we've done a little bit of building in the fog, but we haven't done any on the mountains other than messenger birds.
Yeah, they got messenger birds. So they know about each other. They know about, like, other mountains. They can send messages. You can have suppressing love lives where you fall in love with your pen pal and stuff and yada yada, but you never see each other.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry. Look, that's just something that happens. You can't help it. There's got schools, I assume, and a language, I guess, and maybe that was something fun in the early days.
It'd be kind of
Where
hard to develop a language if you're trying to send a message to somebody.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to say. Maybe that was something fun in the beginning, was they had to translate each other's messages, and eventually they figured it out, but it took time, and, you know. They had to send, like, pictures. Like, it started out with flashcards, where they sent, like, a picture or something, and then, like, their word for it, and then they'd send the flashcard back with their word for it, and then it's just a bunch of... and then eventually you get, like, a full-blown dictionary, and, you know, you're fine. But, yeah. It started slow, but communication was established, because, you know, we thrive on communication and interaction, so we would do it. Humans would find a way. Crop-wise... Can we have some fun crops that grow on, like, mountainsides, kind of like mushrooms grow on trees? Like, these crops do that to, like, mountain cliffs?
I mean, there are, I believe you can find mushrooms growing on the sides of mountains.
There we go. We got some food. We got some fun food sources, which grow on, like, mountain cliffs faces. So. But
note that my knowledge of mushrooms growing on the sides of mountains is from Zelda, so take that with a grain of salt.
I'm taking that with a huge grain. Look, this is a fantasy world. That's good enough. That's all we need for proof that it can be done. At least believably in a fantasy world.
Okay,
So.
what is the favorite food of these messenger hawks? Let's give them a fun favorite food that can be common, that they like to eat, that maybe humans like to eat as well. Kind of like how horses eat oats, but then we can like cook oats in a way that we eat them. I don't know what that's where my mind went, but that's where it went.
Tree. Let's get a tree fruit. And it's also the nesting place of the hawks. So they nest in these trees, and the trees produce a fruit that they really like.
What color is the fruit?
What color is the fruit?
Something appetizing.
I mean, I feel like whatever the fruit is, it'll be kind of named after the bird, because that tends to be what happens. So whatever the birds end up being.
Hawk fruit?
Well, whatever. The birds might have a different name and have different traits, but the fruit would be similar to the, and I don't know, what hawks like something, a fruit that kind of has a meaty texture to it. If that makes, yeah.
A meaty texture to a fruit?
Yeah. Because hawks like meat. So it's a fruit that kind of, when you're eating it, you're like, I feel like I'm eating meat, but I'm not. I'm eating a fruit.
But it tastes juicy and, well, so does meat a lot of time. It tastes sweet and...
It's a sweet meat.
Yeah, it's just sweet and more juicy than meat.
Yeah, but when you're chewing it, it feels like to your jaw, it feels like you're eating like steak or something. Like you gotta cut this off with a fork and knife. This isn't a let's bite into it thing.
I mean, I just bite straight into steak. I do fine.
I have a very weak jaw, so that doesn't happen. I can't eat steak. Like I physically just can't.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good to know if you're ever over for dinner and making steak.
There are some I can, like the really soft kind, but most steak is just like
if you spend a very long time cooking it,
yeah,
you can get a soft.
Because like it's the same thing with carrots. I can't chew normal carrots. They have to be not even like baby carrots, but the petite baby carrots or carrot chips for me to be able to chew it. Like it's a serious issue. Like I have people. I've gone to dentists and they look at my jaw and they're like, "So you want us to break your jaw for you so you can start chewing food? Because you look like you can't chew food properly." And I'm like, "You're right, but it's not that big of a problem to me to have my jaw broken for like 6 months. So I'll pass." But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. From that depressing note, I guess we can do like one last little thing before we end off. One last thing for these village people. Or maybe not. Maybe we just end it
here.
What
kind of clothes do they?
Ooh, clothing. Oh yeah, they need clothing item. That's a good point. Do they have like a sheep-like animal?
Do they harvest cotton?
Or
they might have a sheep-like animal, or they might have a cotton-like plant. Let's give them a sheep-like animal because that's more fun.
Also, I feel like they're very close to their hawks, and they wear their feathers. Like feathers, they should.
Probably,
like,
but
I feel like
feathers.
Well, for like decorative purposes, I feel like feathers are a very important.
They're more like jewelry.
Also, a thing to note.
Like you can wear jewelry, but it's not proper clothing.
Also, a thing to note, like food and culture and clothing, that can change mountain to mountain. Like if you want, you could have completely different cultures in each mountain. Because they're separate cultures.
So like this person comes up out of the fog to see this village for the first time. These people are like, "Whoa, what kind of clothes are you wearing? What material is this? This is what we call cotton." Whoa! What are you wearing? We just got boring old feathers and wool.
Wool? Question mark? What? Yeah.
What is wool?
For all you know, you could have someone wearing like a scale-like thing. Like you could have some diversity. So, but I think that's where we're gonna end it today. This one's definitely one that can be expanded on a lot more, but I think we made a good start.
Went into what the deer-like creature looks like, other than deer-like.
It's a deer-like.
Let's make it gray.
I mean, I feel like it needs to blend into the fog.
Gray.
It needs to blend into the fog. It's its only hope.
It's a dark, dark gray, and I say we give it long hair.
Okay. Cool. Oh, that way they
Like
can use it for clothing.
Yeah, they could. I wasn't thinking about that. I was just thinking aesthetically wise. But yes, they could also use that for clothing.
Look at that, solving all the world's problems. This world's, not ours.
Yay.
But
I like this world. I just wish I had more energy to make it.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I saved this world for another day.
Well,
I had another world that I was I had another world that I was considering, but I chose this one because I didn't have enough energy. But this one turned out so well. I wish I had more energy to make it more exciting sounding.
I think people can catch on to the excitement. Let's not undersell our energy level. This was just a more chill podcast. We were a lot calmer. I'm sure my audio is not the best, but it's because my hamster's racing about, and I'm making sure she's not jumping off into something. So I have to keep.
This one took us a while. This one took us a while to get started because in the beginning, we were having some slight trouble with you trying to figure out how the fog works and how you can dig a tunnel underneath the fog. And then I'm just like, it's magic fog. Just hand wave it with magic. It's like, there, problem solved.
Yeah, but it's still something important you gotta establish is how the main thing about this world functions. Because if you don't know how that functions, then the rest of the world, like, who cares what it does? It's gonna get, it's not stable if you don't have the core mechanics established. But
magic, nobody understands it.
Yeah, well, you can still understand magic. Magic's just things we don't understand yet. So, on that fun note, we're gonna say goodbye to our foggy, foggy world. And you can join us next week with yet another world, with another prompt, which apparently Isaac has been holding on to for like 4 weeks now, so should be a good one. We're hyping you up for it. It better be a good one. You've hyped me up for it, so we will, we will see you then. Bye!